What's going on? My name is Mark Owens, and this is the first YouTube live video that I've ever done. So I'm not expecting anybody to be on here, but I wanted to talk about this thing called BRRRR. If you're a real estate investor, especially buy and hold, then you're going to know what I'm talking about. But I just want to break it down for those that might not be so familiar with it. So it's called BRRRR. The letters stand for the B. The B is for buy. Then the first R is for renovate. The next R is for rent. Then the next R is refinance. And then there's another R that's on there sometimes for repeat, to repeat the whole process. And the beauty of BRRRR is it gives us the ability to use hard money or other people's money to build a massive real estate portfolio with zero to very little out of your own pocket. Now, I started doing this. First one I did was an apartment building that I bought 15, 16, 17 years ago, something like that, around 2005. And that's when I kind of figured out this whole process. So I'm going to break it down for you, and I'm going to use very simple numbers just to make it so that it's easy to follow along, since I obviously don't have a whiteboard or anything like that. I don't have anything. I'm actually in a campground. So let's say that a wholesaler brings you a deal, and it's in the neighborhood where you want to buy some rentals, and you know that the after repair value of this property, like after it's fixed up, it's worth 100 grand, $100,000. Now, using the typical rehabber formula, we're going to take 70% of the 100,000, and that brings us down to 70,000. And then the next question is, well, how much work do we need? How much money do we have to spend to make this property worth $100,000? In this example, we'll say 20,000, just again to keep the numbers simple. So we're going to deduct that from the 70. That gives us $50,000. That's the most that we should spend on this property, is 50 grand. Let me run through the numbers again. After repair value, or ARV, as some people call it, 100,000. We have $20,000 in repair costs, or reno costs, as people say, or the reno is 20. So 70% of 100,000 is 70,000, minus the reno of 20,000 brings us down to 50,000. That's the most you should pay. Now, what happens is the wholesalers are going to get it under contract for 40, 45. Then they're going to assign it to you for 5 or 10 grand or whatever. As long as it's below the $50,000, you're good. And whatever they make on it, like, good for them. They found the deal. They put all the work in. So I don't care how much money they make, as long as the deal works on my side of the equation. So then you're thinking, all right, well, that's great, Mark. I've got a $50,000 house that needs $20,000 worth of work, and I got like $1,700 in the bank. How am I going to do this? That's where the hard money lenders come in. And this is why your reputation is so important, and your credit, and all that stuff. Like, do everything that you can to make yourself look good. So the hard money lenders will lend you all the money you need for the purchase and the renovation. It's not always easy to do the first few times because you haven't built a track record yet. Nobody knows if you're a whack job or if you know what you're doing. So it's going to get easier. In the beginning, it's harder. You might have to partner up with somebody or put some other kind of collateral up. But I promise you that once you get everything together, the stuff works. I've probably bought close to 100 units using this method. So then what happens is you contact the hard money lender, and they agree, okay, I'll lend you the purchase money and the rehab money. Then have to put something else up for collateral, something like that. That's, this is just the best case scenario. So they give you all the money, and you're going to be paying for it. It could be 10%, 12%, 15%, 18%, possibly, 0 to 5 points, depending on the strength of you, the strength of the deal, things of that nature. So what happens is they lend you the money for the purchase and the rehab. So you show up at settlement, you buy the property. You're going to need your $1,700. You might need a little bit more than that for your closing costs. So maybe you might need $2,500. I don't know. But you're going to need to have something at the table, more than likely, unless you've got a really good reputation or a really generous lender. So you buy the house for 50. You put 20 in it. The house is ready. It's ready to move in. Now you find the tenant. This is the second R. You already renovated it. Now you're going to rent it. So you find a tenant. You throw them in there. You get as much rent as you can. Now you want to refinance the property. And this is why you need good credit. So you go ahead and you talk to these different banks and you say, hey, I want to refi this property. I bought it. I renovated. It's a beautiful home. I got a tenant in there. And you find a bank that says, okay, we're doing that. That's great. We're doing loans at 80% LTV, loan to value, which means they're going to want to appraise the property and find out what the value is. And then they will give you up to 80% of that. So in this example, we're going to say that the bank is doing an 80% LTV and you were really good with your numbers and the property appraised at $100,000. The bank's going to give you 80 or 80% of that. That's 80 grand they're going to give you. So you sign all the stuff, you get a settlement for the refinance, and you pay your hard money lender back the 70 that you borrowed, and you've got money to reimburse yourself for the closing costs when you bought it, and you've got some money out of that extra 10,000 to pay for the closing costs when you refinance the property. And there's even some money left over to help reimburse you for the costs that you had from the day you bought it to the day that you rented it out, because you're going to have costs. You're going to have utilities, you're going to have insurance, you're going to have your hard money payments, and maybe overages, something like that. Sometimes those things happen. So that's the way that this thing works. And if you run your numbers right, it's like amazing what you can do with it. As I said, I've done the first one I did it with was a 15-unit apartment building where it wasn't all 15 units apartments. 7 of them were commercial spaces, and there were 8 apartments that were vacant that needed renovation. That's the first one that I did. And the way that I figured it out was I was doing some flips at the time, some retail flips, and I was using the same formula. And I'm not a real good flipper. Like I don't ever like talk about that stuff because I'm not real good at it. I don't have the right temperament. But I was looking at the numbers for these things, and I was thinking like, man, what happens if I can't sell this house? Like, then what am I going to do if I can't sell it? And then I thought, well, I could just refinance it. I mean, I'll be in it for 70, 75% of what it's going to appraise at, so I can just refinance it and just keep the damn thing if I have to. And then I thought, if I have to, wait a minute, that sounds like a really amazing idea. Like I'd never heard of it. Like there was, now you hear about it on Bigger Pockets and all these other stuff. There was no Bigger Pockets in 2005. There was no Facebook or Meetup.com, or I didn't even know about RIAs. I don't know back then if I even knew about those. I just kind of figured it out. And then I saw somebody else wrote an article about it, and they called it the BRRRR method. I was like, son of a bitch! I wish I'd have thought of that and wrote a book on it in 2005, but I didn't. So I was too busy actually doing it. So anyway, so that's BRRRR demystified. I just wanted to keep the numbers simple. Hope this helped you. If it did, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I don't have a lot of content on here right now. Most of my content is actually on my Facebook group, Mark Owens, REI. I'm actually starting to transfer a lot of that stuff up here. So that's it. Hope everybody has a nice evening. See you.